Hey, you've stumbled across the verbal transform. I'm Emily Gustosi, and this is a place where we talk about words that we use all the time. And in the course of their use, we have battered them, squished them, really just abused them a little bit. And this is a place where we get to breathe new life back into them, remember what they really meant, explore what they could mean. And today, I am joined by MJ Impastato.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a life coach and leadership development consultant. I work with individuals and teams to help them find their leading edge. Also, when they explore what we're going to explore today, their intimacy, being able to see inside of themselves and each other, it leads to more creativity, productivity, and really getting more purpose out of their daily lives.
Nice. So you've given us a little bit of a clue as to what our word of the day is. Intimacy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a word that we have tangled up in all kinds of things. What do you find when you use that word with people?
Oh, wow. Immediately people think physical intimacy. They think sexual. That seems to be what happens. If I say it in a corporate environment, everybody's like, HR is around. You can't say that word. Don't. So I think we've lost the true meaning of the word intimacy. And I'm hoping some of these conversations will start to reclaim the true word.
So what is this true meaning of intimacy?
So a few definitions are out there. Its origins are Latin, of course. Intimus, which means innermost, or intimare, which is to impress or make familiar. So it's really just about a closeness, a familiarity. Say that word a few times fast. Just being extremely close. Examples they showed in just the regular old Webster's dictionary was, telling your life story to your best friend and dreaming up things and, telling those secrets, those things that you might not tell other people, but just really getting to the core of who you are with another person. And also with yourself is how I see it.
Nice. Tell me a little bit more about the yourself part, because I think a lot of people think intimacy is a two or more person word.
Yeah, intimacy, a lot of people you'll see out there, they use the word, the phrase, into me, see. So when we're with someone else and we maybe share a vulnerability or something that's hard in our lives, and we're letting them see something that might be kind of messy in our lives, it's just allowing that person to see that part of us without them having to fix it, without them shoving a Kleenex in our face to help us stop up the tears. But with doing that with ourselves, I've found with the work that I'm doing with a lot of my clients, it's a lot of inner child work. And I have them sort of direct themselves back to themselves and intimately connect with that inner child that may have gotten hurt or had been through some sort of trauma early on in their lives, and go back and reconnect just with themselves. And what I've found is when we can connect with ourselves and accept the joy and the pain and the fears and the courage that we have in ourselves, then we can actually see it much clearer in other people as well. It allows that channel to sort of open up with others.
Kind of a muscle that you have to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
When you were talking about working with the childhood work, and you had mentioned the word vulnerability there, and I mean, in the leadership coaching space, I mean, it's almost sacrilege not to be on the Brene Brown bus with the vulnerability work. So yeah, like intimacy is really tied into that vulnerability.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brene Brown, who I absolutely love, has done a great job of bringing that to light, you know, our vulnerability and our shame. And it's great. There are more people out there being more vulnerable and having the courage to be vulnerable. But what I've found is people don't know how to sit with that vulnerability. We don't know how to witness it.
Mm-hmm.
We try to fix it. So it's there's a lot of vulnerability being shared, but some people are getting almost it's a bit of a backlash in a way. It's like, oh well, I shared this and then it came back to bite me in the butt, you know?
Yeah.
Because people are so uncomfortable with other people's vulnerability at times. We don't know how to just sit with it and witness it and realize, wow, this person is sharing something really vulnerable. How honored am I to sit here and be a part of that and just, as we say in the coaching world, sort of hold the space for them.
Yeah. That makes so much sense in the context of the Webster's definition you started out with. One of the examples you said they had was like sharing something with a best friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So intimacy is being able to sit with that vulnerability, or that's part of it at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As the receiver of being the receiver of that story or those examples in that person's life, you know, it's our responsibility to really like hold that space for them. And we tend to want to fix people quickly to make them feel better or to make ourselves feel better. Whenever I'm doing work with teams or workshops, you know, people might start crying and immediately people start fidgeting for a Kleenex or they try to find the Kleenex box. And I'll often encourage them, just allow the person to have that moment. Allow the tears to fall because it's healing. A lot of times what we're trying to do is hand them a tissue because it makes us feel better. Because it feels like we're doing something. Or maybe their tears are making us uncomfortable. So, oh, please stop crying. I mean, that's the message, whether it's not actually said, it's the nonverbal message, like stop the tears.
Clean yourself up.
Exactly. It's way too messy.
Yeah. What do you find, or what have you seen people find when they discover this way of being with other people's vulnerability? And I mean, sometimes pain, sometimes intense joy.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been really fortunate just to work with some clients who've been so open to a lot of this work, and they may have had struggles in their relationships or personal relationships, and to make it work. And when we started to do the internal intimacy work with themselves first, it opened up so much more. They have a stronger voice in their offices. Like they get connected with who they are first, and it sort of drops away the need for validation or approval. It's like, wait, this is what I know in my gut. This is truly coming from a place that's not trying to overcome any, you know, we have triggers or past hurts or whatever. Like we keep trying to prove ourselves to people. And so it's really been pretty incredible to see the transformation for a lot of these people, including myself. I was just recently on a podcast and we were talking about this, and some of the other participants were talking about how they've gone inside themselves, you know, when they really needed to heal or anything like that. Or it doesn't just have to be healing. It can be they're launching a new business and it's a little uneasy and scary. So they would retreat to themselves and kind of find that intimacy in themselves, and that was easy for them. For me, I didn't have a great model of good boundaries, of what's healthy, and how to find that inside of myself. It took a really long time for me. And so for me, in my own personal life, I had to watch other people who had good, clear boundaries and who could actually connect with people in true intimacy and not get lost in the physical intimacy. Not get lost in sort of a power trip that may happen in a work environment. It may have nothing to do with anything sexual, but it would become sort of this, exploded ego type of thing.
That's about 6 things popped into my head at once. That's so rich there, because you've got, like, sometimes when you do get the connections in the workplace, they can turn weird in so many ways. And when you say the power trip one, it's like oh, because so you get the kind of the cult of personality that can get pulled up, or the just the other ways that people who spend a lot of time and may not have, like their main models may be family models or other types of models where people are together, and they may not have an idea of the vast array of ways people can connect.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. If sometimes I think we don't quite understand the power of true intimacy, and what will happen is maybe you're at work and you're having trouble in your marriage, and you've connected with someone that you work with every day. You go to lunch together with them every day. Y'all share each other's work stresses, and then suddenly you start to blend in this, my wife is just really harping on me, my husband is really harping on me, and that's a window of vulnerability. Absolutely. And then it gets sort of muddy, because we don't know how to just sit and witness that with like a really clear boundary. And so people may suddenly think that they're in love with one another. That's where affairs may start in, or things like that. And when truly they might just be seeing each other as human beings and being a really wonderful support for one another, except it gets very muddied. And now they don't know how to sit with those feelings. They don't know how to sit with someone's discomfort or vulnerability or shared experience, and then things get blurred. Now I just went off on a couple tangents.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there's a quote that I keep tripping over top of on Facebook, and I will post below who said this because I can't remember, but it's something to the effect of being listened to is so much like being loved that most people can't tell the difference.
Right. Exactly.
What do you do to work with people who really are just struggling with decoupling physical and kind of that emotional intimacy? Say that many times fast.
So what am I doing when I work with people who are trying to decouple, like a breakup, things like that? It does go back to really connecting with their self, their soul, their source, themselves, because it gets so tangled. I know I was married for 10 years, and I guess a lot of this always comes from our own experience. I had gotten so intertangled with him, I wasn't quite sure. I didn't even know what kind of music I liked anymore.
Wow.
It was just, I'm like, wait, do I really like this music? Or is it just because, I was with him for so long? So doing the basic steps of first having them connect just with themselves. And I usually do have them go back to a moment when they felt really comfortable in their own skin when they were young. for me, I think it was like I was 5 years old. And I can just remember it so vividly still to this day. I was outside in my front yard with my shoes off, and I was singing to the birds and the trees and the butterflies and whatever. I can still picture that so clearly. And I can remember how I feel and how I sort of radiate as a person, even at that little bitty state before anything really went wrong or whatever in my life. And so I go back to that. And then what I have people do is I have them really start to work on intimacy with other people. Listening in a very different way. Really making eye contact, which a lot of times we rarely do anymore. We're so focused on our phones or this or that. There's a million things happening. Pokemon Go. And so just taking the moment to make eye contact, even if it's just somebody walking down the street, to see that person as a person and make that connection.
I mean, I'm making up like how powerful that must be for people. What is your experience when people are first discovering this shift?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable at first. And then I'll get, I love it. I love my clients text me a lot. They'll text me, say, this happened today. And wow, what a shift. And I know it's because I've connected with myself, or, I even checked in with my younger self, my little self, and said, hey, does this feel right for me? And they got the thumbs up, and it was it's really great. I mean, I think I also have people who've been through trauma, or, again, blurred lines with sexual intimacy. And I have people who now say, I went on a date and this guy is terrific, and we didn't have to sleep together on the first date. No right, no wrong. Everybody is open to whatever they want to do. But she said the connection was so incredible, and it felt that much stronger without jumping into bed right away.
When you said it was relief in that state for her.
Right. Yeah.
So let's say that you've been getting out there and helping people connect with their intimacy edge, and it's catching fire. How do you see the world changing for the better in the next 5 years because people have connected with their intimacy edge?
Wow. Yeah, I sort of have this hope. That we can look each other in the eyes and see each other as human beings. I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and so there's a lot of stuff going on down there right now. And I actually grew up with one of the police officers that was killed. But my immediate thought, of course, was to pray for their families, but I also prayed for the shooter, because he was once just an innocent child with no hate in his heart, and he's been hurting in whatever way, shape, or form. I can't make up what it was, but if we could take a moment to sit and just look at each other in the eyes and see the humanity in each other, see each other's pain, see each other's joys, and fears and courage, it would be a great place. I mean, one of the things that, even politically, like, I think one of the major shifts that have happened, and I live here in Washington, D.C., and one of the major shifts that have happened is the representatives don't necessarily move their families here anymore.
Oh,
They
wow.
used to. And, you know, their kids would play soccer together, Republican and Democrat. You know, they would go to church together. They would go to community functions together. And that doesn't happen as much anymore. And so, you know, at the end of the day, they would be on the soccer field with their kids, talking about their kids and soccer. They were just normal people seeing each other as people. And that doesn't happen anymore. You know, if our politicians would see each other as human beings instead of blue or red, what would our government be like? What could get done if we saw each other as human beings?
Well, and making sure that we have those opportunities to see each other as human beings. You wouldn't think necessarily, oh, wow, the change in the pattern of families is changing how our, you know, the whole country ends up working. And yet, that is, you know, I can only imagine it's a factor.
Sure. It's again, that's sort of that intimacy, that vulnerability. I mean, maybe their kids, you know, back in the day, maybe their kids were struggling and they had that vulnerability that they shared together. And, you know, politics aside, wow, I'm really having a hard time. And, you know, what do we do? Oh, wow, we're just people like everybody else. So
People building community.
Absolutely.
Well, what do you want to leave us with about intimacy today?
I like this question. I think take a moment, because we move so fast. Take a moment to check in with your inner child, you know, that little version of you that had all those dreams and hopes and scraped their knee, you know, pick her up, give her a kiss, look her in the eyes and tell her she's going to be okay. And then take a moment with everyone in your life, whoever it is, and just look them in the eye. They say there's quite a powerful, when you make a connection with the left eye, and eye gazing, a window into the soul. You know, so 2 minutes. So take 2 minutes with your partner, one of your best friends, and just put on a little timer, try it out, and just see the person, see everything about them, know the things that they've gone through, see the dreams that you want them to achieve or that you know that they have. Just start looking at people in a very different way.
Well, I know that your passion for this topic always infects me whenever I talk with you, because I'm just like, where's my timer? I need to go find people.
I know, I get to talking and I can't stop. Sorry.
Oh no, no, the timer to go talk to, like, and look at people's eyes, because now I'm like, yes, do the exercise now.
Yeah, I know. I wish we could do it here. It just misses just a little bit.
That's a problem with this medium, because if I'm looking at your picture, trying to look in your eyes, you can't see into mine.
Right.
This is a technology. We will figure it out.
Exactly. Technology. Fix this.
Yes.
It's important.
It is. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I cannot wait to hear what else you are doing. We'll have links so you can know how to keep up with MJ in the doobly-doo below. And thank everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. Let's reclaim the word intimacy. Let's get it back.
Amen. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. See you all later.